Hi Gus, good afternoon. I saw your last email. In response to that, I've created this screen recording to show you some of the features that you talked about in your email, so you can use them. The very first one will show you how to import an Excel sheet properly into ITA. So for that purpose, I have created a room called a West Room. I named this room West Room, and all I did was I need to specify rows. In order to specify the rows, you need to be in the Planning tab, and from there you can click on this lock. It open up this menu options, and the very last one is called Generate Rows. When you click on that, it will actually generate rows for you, and you can specify their size and the length in here. And once these rows are created, you have the possibility to go there and name them. So I named them A, B, C, D for simplification, but you can name them exactly the way you want. There's no limitation on that. Once the rows are created, you have the possibility to change their size. You can make them shorter or longer if there's a need for it. Rows are part of this room, and these are created. And for the import process to work, these rows needs to be in place. So from here, I will go to the spreadsheet. When I open up the spreadsheet, I'm planning to import equipment into the West Room. So I named the room as West Room. From here, I will specify what equipment I wanted to put in different rows. On my row A, I want to put UPS and PDU. On row B, I'll put an UPS and PDU. On row C, I'll put an ATS and RDP. On row D, I'll put a crack. And on row again, I'll put my first rack. It's an IT rack. So I specified the row for it, specified the equipment name, rack A, and everything that goes into the rack are right here. So rack PDUs, rack switches, application servers. So when you add multiple racks, you will do the same thing for first rack, specified all the equipment inside that rack, and then you will start with rack B or rack 2 or whatever number you want. You will mention it here, and then you will specify all the content of that rack in here. So if you go to each one of these line items, consistently with all the equipment, you need to specify the model name, the part number, the barcode, the installation date. The model name and the equipment name is mandatory, and the model name is mandatory because this model name needs to correspond to an entry inside the genome library. So what I did is I made sure that all these equipment that I'm adding into the ITA, they are all existing on the genome library. If there is any equipment that is not there or their name is changed, I modify that in advance. So I create this list of equipment on my genome library, and I want to make sure for that information to be there. You can go very detailed from this point on. You can specify a lot more information related to each one of these equipment, or you can stay as simple as possible. The model name, the rack name, and I believe the rack mounted PDU connection is important. Everything else is optional. So once this spreadsheet is created this way with the room name, row names, floor equipment, rack, and then the rack equipment and the U position for each one of these rack equipment, now your spreadsheet is ready to be imported. So what I need to do is I need to go to File, Import Equipment from a spreadsheet. This menu opens up. Go to Browse. I'll browse to the spreadsheet that I just made the modification in it, and simply import that by clicking Next. You will notice that after a few seconds, the system gives me a summary of the imports. All these green sign, plus sign means that all these equipments are imported. These entries means that there is a conflict between the spreadsheet and the genome library. For example, The rack mounted PDU row B has an voltage differences, and there's two tags that are in the spreadsheet, but they are not on the genome library. But they are not, if the error message is not read, it means they are conditional. I can still import these equipment. As soon as I click finish, these equipment will be added to this room. As you notice, now I have a rack with the equipment specified in it. I have a UPS, I have a PDU, I have UPS 2 and PDU 2 in row B. Row C has an ATS switch, and an RDP is in here as well. In the next thing on row D, we specify the crack unit. If you go to the spreadsheet, you will notice the crack unit is on row D, and that crack unit is here. So that was the tutorial for the import process. At this point, I will show you how to move around equipment and change their orientation. So any one of the equipment that you create in data center, if you go to their properties, one of the properties is physical. So if I wanted to change or rotate this device, I will simply change the orientation by 90 degrees or 180 degrees. So if I click put 90 degrees in here, you will notice that this crack unit is changing its position by 90 degrees. Anytime you want to come in here, and you can change this orientation anytime you want, and you should be able to do that. So the third point that you mentioned in your email was working with a DWG file to show you what functionalities or what capabilities are available on ITA today working with a DWG file. I will show you some of them here. The idea for ITA to work a DWG is to bring in the initial room configuration, the wall sizes and the wall positions initially, and based on that, creating a room inside your ITA. As I mentioned before during one of the sessions, this system does not communicate with a dynamic DWG. What I mean by this is, if once you import a DWG, if you make any modification into your initial DWG file, the system will not be aware of this. You need to re-import the file into the system so the system can recognize it. So I've created a room called server room, and if I go to the properties of that room, you will notice there's no background file selected. I can select in DWG as a background file. So I'll click here, and I have 3 different DWG. I will choose one of these, and the system will bring up that DWG into the background of the room. So now if I save that information and go back to that server room, you will notice that the DWG file shows up as a background for that room. From there, we will be able to do few functions with that DWG file. So we can create a room based on that DWG file. So this is the DWG file I brought in. It is for a large colo, so it has multiple rooms and multiple cages. What I can do is a few things. First of all, if you click on this menu option, you can turn off and turn on specific layers of these DWG. For example, if I don't need the HVACs, I uncheck the HVACs, or any other components that you don't need, you can turn them off. From here, I can select the detect room section or the detect room menu. If I click on this, the system will recognize each one of these rooms that are in this DWG file, and I can select this, and I can actually create a separate room based on that information. So once this saving process is done, the system will allow me to select one or multiple of these rooms, so I can create multiple rooms based on that information. So once that selection is finished, I will I will come back to this and we will go through the process of detecting specific room. So now that the saving process is finished, what I can do here, once this DWG is put in as a background for this room, I can, as I mentioned, you can turn off and turn on specific layers of the DWG. The second thing is you can choose or you can use the detect room option. This detect room is actually allowing you to select a specific area to be a room. So for example, if I choose this, it is going to give me an option to create this as a separate room. I can name this and I can finish this, and if you expand this, you will be able to go to the details of this room, and you notice that that room shape is already recognized. So basically the system took those wall shapes from the DWG and created a room based on that, and from here you can create rows and you can import equipment in it. At the same time, the rest of the DWG is still here, so what I can do is I can use the detect additional components from the rest of DWG. I can choose detect walls. So if I wanted to detect a specific wall, I can use this tool and detect specific walls, and I should be able to specify the wall type. It can be a screen, it can be a window wall, a solid wall, or a glass wall once you specified that information. So this is a brief understanding of importing DWGs as a background into a room that you're creating. But we're still recommending creating a room through the tools itself, where you have full capabilities of creating rooms, shaping it, and making it exactly look like your own data center. Or you can use DWG as a background to bring it in and initially recognize the walls based on that DWG. The third or the fourth point, sorry, that you mentioned is your UPSs and PDUs that are upstream. They need to be adjusted. Tomorrow is our last session of the POC. We should be able to look into that and try to adjust the configuration on that, or the values on those devices, so it matches the actual devices that you have in your data center, so you can actually see the power reading throughout the power path in the system. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.